It's time for Tab Talks, your weekly conversation about matters of faith. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash.
Hi, this is Terry Newberry. I'm sitting in this week for Debbie.
All right, and we are talking about marriage. Marriage in crisis, marriage that's strong, marriage that's new, all of the above. And in this year, marriage in quarantine. So all kinds of marriage talk. But we are talking with Greg and Erin Smalley from Focus on the Family. They deal with all the various marriage information coming out of Focus. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to guess you've been a little more busy this year supplying resources and tips and information. Is that a true statement coming out of 2020?
It's absolutely true, but in a very different way. Erin and I typically are used to doing 12 to 15 live events across the country, even the world. And so once COVID hit and we were quarantined, we were no longer traveling. So we've been home. So we've been doing a whole lot more virtual events, as well as Erin has a private practice that she counsels couples, and she's been super busy.
Yeah, the numbers there have risen extra, just unbelievably, because people are coming in, which thank goodness they're coming in to get support as things are a little bit more difficult through the stress of the season.
So you guys have been at home and you're sort of living through the very thing we're talking about. You've both been at home rather than at your respective offices. Well, I'll be interested to hear as we progress some of your experiences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we can tell you, we on the first day of being quarantined, so way back in March, we thought, this is so cool. We're together, we're not traveling. What should we do?
Home together.
And we thought, let's start cooking together. So the very first meal that we we were in our kitchen trying to prepare, we get into a big old fight over the proper way to brown ground beef. And so apparently there's a right way and a wrong way, and I was doing it wrong.
Yes,
of course, Erin knows how to do it correctly.
Yeah, correct. There was an opportunity for growth that I wanted to share. I shared it in a real receivable way that Greg could receive. But it took us all of one day to experience increased conflict due to the extra stressors on our marriage. But yet we've come through it, and we've made some adjustments within our relationship, and it's been a good thing.
Yeah.
So were you able to use some of your own experience then already after day one to help the calls that you received or the virtual conferences that you led?
Yeah. For sure. One of the things we've noticed that couples have gone through is that, the quarantine and being at home and just the changes. Like, we still have a 13-year-old 7th grader still at home, and so figuring out how to also teach, homeschool her,
clients and
just all that. I know for a lot of couples, part of the problem is that, like Old Faithful. So our national, they're in Yellowstone National Park. You get all this pressure that builds up, and then it finally, blows off steam. I think for a lot of couples that are experiencing that, you add in prolonged stress that we're all under. You add in the losses that we face, just the challenges of being together, trying to figure out how to work from home, homeschool, just all that. I think for a lot of couples, that's just created these bursts. And we experienced that, like we said, the first day. And we've had to learn how to really give each other space. We've had to learn how to give each other grace, space and grace. That's probably the best advice for dealing just with the ongoing stress that we go through.
Yeah, and apparently we're not alone, because the divorce rate, the initial research that has come out is showing that the divorce rate has increased between March and June. The divorce rate that was reported was 34% higher than the same time the prior year. And it's mainly impacting couples that are newlyweds and couples with young children. Yeah. So you just can imagine all of everything that's going on, as well as the internal stress within the home. Like Greg said, homeschooling. I'm in my office seeing clients on Zoom with trying to keep that private and HIPAA compliant, while I have a child waving at me in the window saying, I need help with algebra. And I'm like, I can't help you. So, and then added in conflict between the two of us with just being in the same space and on top of each other, that it makes it the perfect, if you don't have skills and tools to work through that stuff, it can be very challenging.
Well, I even, like, at some point, our daughter, like, I was leading this big, like, virtual event, and so I've got all these people tuned in, and it's kind of like this. I mean, it was obvious that I'm talking to my computer. I'm not insane. So, I mean, I'm doing something. I'm working. And our daughter comes up and totally interrupts and goes, "Why did you take my sushi?" Or no, my hummus. She goes, "Why did you take my hummus?" And I'm right in the middle of talking. And I'm trying to, wave her off, and she's going, "Where did it go?" And I'm going, I said, "I'm sorry, hold on one second." I'm like, "I didn't touch your hummus. I know you took it." And so, of course, people are all loving it, typing in, we're going to start calling you hummus, and but I mean, just so all of us have had to try to figure this out. And that's why I think for a lot of couples, it's created that pressure cooker, that old faithful kind of moments where we just explode.
So Greg, there was an article that I read that I think you guys wrote, and if I had the date right, it was probably in early March. It was the 10 ways your marriage can survive the coronavirus quarantine. And I wanted to ask if indeed that was written back in the March timeframe, how would you amend that or add to it or perhaps take away from it, knowing what you've come through for the past few months?
That's a great question. I would say, first of all, I think what I've learned is within Erin and I, just on our marriage, within our own marriage journey, is just the importance of paying attention to the emotions and the losses that we constantly are experiencing. Those, when COVID first hit, we had a senior in high school. Well, big basketball player. So, I mean, the gazillion hours that Erin and I've spent at practices and the stands, all leading up to his team making the Final Four. Well, that never got played. And that was over for him. And of course, now he is in college. But just, we all have those, from health issues to job loss to just the
financial strain.
Yeah, being disconnected from church and friends, and just fill in the blank. We've all experienced loss, and it's been one of the best things for Erin and I to take walks. Of course, we live in Colorado and it's getting rather cold. Actually, it's snowing right now.
Oh, great.
But just for she and I, just to spend some time, to where a lot of times we're just like, okay, what new loss? Like what's like she'll say, what's been the high of your day, the low of your day? And we've just embraced this idea that the uncertainty, the losses, as all that mounts, we just need to keep talking about it. And it's been really good for us. I mean, I know that here, my best friend and I are locked away with our 13-year-old daughter who loves hummus.
Barely, right?
Yeah.
And we can take advantage of that. So we've had to learn, and we've had to adjust. One of the big things that we realize is that because we spent so much time traveling and doing marriage events, we relied on that. We leaned on that to keep our own marriage strong. I mean, think about it. We got to be in a new city, eating at cool restaurants, ministering together, doing events, hotels alone together. I mean, all that.
Without the 13-year-old.
Exactly. We would buy some hummus, though, just for her.
Good for you. Good for you.
But that was a big part of what kept our marriage strong, because when we were home, we were really invested in friends and kids and jobs and church, knowing that, hey, in a couple weeks, we'll be together in some cool place. And when that went away, we realized that we were starting to drift. And all of a sudden, what we used before wasn't working, and we were starting, right, to, we had this talk, we were starting to feel like married roommates, even
Wow.
though we were present or at home. And so we had to figure out a whole new way of relating to make sure that our marriage was strong.
That's powerful.
Can you share some of those new ways?
Yeah, one of our most favorite ways, we actually, over in the corner, is what we call a feelings wheel. And we keep that at our table now.
You sound like such a therapist.
I know.
We do have
well, there's many things that I'm using with my clients, and I'm like, hey, that would work in at home. And so we have this feelings wheel that we leave at our table. And every single day, we share 3 feeling words that we've experienced in the last 24 hours.
How
So,
cool.
just simply, choose 3, pick 3. And we've pulled our kids in, especially our sweet 13-year-old who is now an only child. She's had some major changes too, because our son went off to college. And so, just what are you feeling? Giving our individual hearts a voice, but then allowing us to connect through, connect heart to heart. The research is phenomenal on that, because really the research says 10 minutes a day of talking at a deep heart level is going to take your marriage to a much more satisfying place. So it's important that you really look for opportunities to do that. For me, thinking about, we've got to be connected heart to heart. There's a million things going on. Where do I find time for that? 10 minutes. And I continue to have 10 minutes a day to make sure that we are connecting heart to heart.
Yeah, we also, I think a big part of just our journey over the last, 8-9 months has really been our oldest daughter on her couple days after her 3rd wedding anniversary. Her husband told her that he no longer wanted to be married. And so even in the midst of shutdown and quarantine, just the pain of walking that out in obviously what we do and what we're passionate about in life is we help couples stay together. And to watch our sweet daughter in son-in-law who dearly love and hate his choice, love him. However, they're now officially divorced, and we had to go walk through all that. And it really, I think for me, what it did is there was a season where I really started questioning, is anything that we're doing making a difference? I mean, if we can't even help our own, kids, what are we doing? And it was good. I mean, I can tell you now on months later, definitely we have a renewed passion. I probably shouldn't speak for you, but I think that's true. We both have a renewed sense of passion for just for helping couples, but it also it forced us to go, what's going on in our marriage or even as individuals that we're missing that maybe could lead to some real challenges. And so it forced us to get help. So we went and saw counselors individually and as a couple. It was so good. I mean, I feel like this year has been a true year of growth for us. Tremendous pain in loss, in heartache, in having to do that journey that we would certainly have preferred never to have to go on. And
honestly, never dreamt we would go through that, nor did she. But I will tell you that when I have a young couple, especially these young couples, when I have one that's willing to come in and sit on my couch in my therapy office, in my practice, I am overwhelmed and just so excited that they're willing to come in. And if nothing else, if I can use my voice to encourage these young couples and to let them know there is hope. There is hope on the other side of this challenging season. Just because you're in a challenging season doesn't mean it's for a lifetime. There are going to be continued seasons of challenge, but there's also seasons of blessing. And so I love when I interact with a couple, whether that be in therapy or when we speak or when we get a Facebook question. I mean, it just is, there's such an opportunity to encourage the younger generation. Many of them did not have someone model a healthy marriage for them, and they don't know. And so if I can be that voice, if we can be that voice to say it is possible to have a healthy marriage, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's worth the work. It's worth the investment.
Well, I will say that just your transparency is a huge encouragement. I was sitting here thinking, goodness gracious, it makes us normal humans feel like, okay, if the Smalleys are working through this with their training, their education, their experience, their hearts, then I can work through it too. And that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your heart.
Oh, thanks. We keep telling, you know, couples. I mean, if I boiled it down to just a couple things on how to have a strong marriage, I would say number one, have absolute rock solid commitment. I mean, through that journey with our daughter, I kept telling Erin, you know, I would look her right in the eyes and I'd say, you understand, right, that I'm with you till the end. There's no question. I'm here. I'm fully 100% committed to you. And I would tell, like, our 13-year-old, I tell our kids, you guys understand, right, that as we go through this, I want you guys to know that mom and I, we're 100% committed to each other. And I think it's an opportunity tonight, you know, get your spouse's eyes, drop right there and just lean in and say, you know, that I'm with you till the end. And I think it's good that we remind each other of that. And I'd say the other piece is that we have to be committed to growing as an individual and as a couple.
That's what I would, as you said that, I was thinking what I would say 100% that two healthy individuals are going to create a healthy marriage. And that we have that opportunity to sharpen each other. Granted, we have to be open to hearing our spouse's feedback.
Like how to brown ground beef.
Just feedback. Just an example.
Great influence.
Recognizing that our spouse is not our source of truth, but if our spouse is seeing something they're concerned about, gosh, take that to the Lord and pray about it and ask him to convict you. That if my spouse is saying that I'm not receiving feedback well, or if I'm overreacting to daily things, or I'm, you know, maybe she sees that I'm depressed, or he sees that I'm anxious, whatever it is, I'm drinking more, I'm whatever it is, just being open to hearing it and thanking them, but then going, Lord, what's true here? Is this true in my life? And then going and getting individual help is so necessary, because as you grow and heal, well, it's going to impact the marriage. And then maybe even going in for some marital counseling, just to strengthen the attachment and the connection between the two of you.
What if one of the members of the couple, what if the husband or wife will not do counseling or is opposed to that? How do you deal with that?
You know, what I say is go yourself. Go set the tone. It's so fun, because I have many women that will come to me for counseling because their husbands won't come. But it's so cute, because several weeks of the woman coming, the husband will start going, well, what are you doing there? Well, what do you talk about? Well, yeah. Well, do I need to come with you? And I love it. One of my clients said, you know what? No, you don't need to come with me. You need to go and do your own stuff, because this is my time. And I'm doing this not only for me, but for our marriage. And it's fun to see how the other spouse, whether that be the husband or the wife, starts to kind of go, oh, I like what I'm seeing in them. Therefore, I'm going to go, I want that too. I want to be a participating spouse as well. So I'm going to go and get some help too. So if your spouse is saying, nope, I won't do it, go do it. Go do it yourself.
Yeah. And we have a free marriage assessment. So if you just came to focusonthefamily.com, look under the marriage section, you'll see marriage assessment. In what it does is it'll help show you, here are your 3 greatest strengths as a couple. So keep doing that. So pour fuel on those 3 things and just be stronger in those areas. But it's also going to point out 3 growth areas. And thus you can narrow down, you know, okay, they're telling us we need to keep growing. What? Yeah. And so that's what's been good, is to pinpoint some of that. So it's free, and you can take that, and then there you go. You've got 3 areas that you guys can hone in on and say, you know, okay, if it's communication or conflict or time together or intimacy, whatever it is, how can we grow in that? And I just love that mindset of going, we're with each other till the end. let's keep growing as individuals and as a couple.
Mhm.
And you know what? Certainly there's a lot of things that we could do, but I tell you, those few,
Mhm.
it's going to help within your marriage. I promise you that.
To build on that, going back to the article I spoke of earlier, one of the things that really resonated with me, you talked about using the phraseology or the phrase with your spouse, I feel safe when you ...
Yeah.
Mhm.
And boy, that sort of cuts to the chase, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Because that gives you a common ground and a harbor to have a very good and strong conversation. So boy, that just really resonated with me.
Mhm. It's so important that when we do have those difficult conversations, because we're all going to have them, we need to have them. It's good for our marriage. But how do we do that in a way that feels safe? Because when we feel safe, hearts are open, and then we can connect heart to heart and experience what we really got married for. And that's the deep connection, the deep intimate connection, to be fully known and fully valued. And because when it doesn't feel safe, when there's name calling or high conflict and unresolved conflict, well, it doesn't feel super safe for either person. Hearts will close and disconnection will happen. And so even if you're sensing the disconnection, maybe after the last months, 6 months, you're sensing that, gosh, we're really kind of disconnected. Talk about that with your spouse. I'm feeling disconnected from you. Is there something I'm doing that's causing you to feel unsafe, or that's leading you to feel unsafe? But even better, what's one thing that I would do that would cause you to feel safe when we need to have a conversation, or one thing that would help you to feel loved or valued? Just be brave, be courageous, and call out what's really going on.
Let me cook without being coached.
The
Are
great
you
thing,
asking me that? Or,
no,
I don't think he was actually asking.
the great news
wow.
that as a result of that first day, our first conflict during the quarantine, this guy has totally taken on cooking and cleaning. He's like a little happy house husband. And I love it, because 28 years of marriage, that has never happened. I mean, you've always been helpful, but it's at a whole new level. And that helps me to feel safe.
Yeah, I started cooking and ended up losing 50 pounds. Really?
Wow.
He did. He did.
Yeah.
Does that say something about your cooking, or?
It says that I enjoyed eating out.
Yes.
A lot of fried food.
Yeah, no more French fries.
Yeah. Thank goodness for keto. But so there's been some great silver linings for us. I know for other couples, the quarantine, just this season that we've been in, it's really shined a spotlight on issues that they got really, really good at masking. I think for a lot of couples, they can be very, very good at distracting, using kids and work and hobbies and friends and other things to tune out to some real issues that were there festering. And I think that's been one of the side effects of COVID and all of this, is that they can't hide. And so they've had to face issues, which is why, Erin's counseling practice, went through the roof, and people are going, we've got to figure this out. And that's great. And, I love, there's a concept called an Ebenezer, and it's in the Old Testament, in the Bible, it was called the stone of help. And basically, when clearly God was there, present, showing up, giving us help, that the children of Israel would erect sort of the stone monument as a way to say, this is evidence of God's ever-present help in our life. And I tell you what, this crazy COVID season will be an Ebenezer for so many couples. They're going to look back and say, you know what, had we not been forced together and out of the normal distractions that we used, because look where we are now, and now we have built a marriage that we both really, really like. And that's going to be the story for so many couples. And I love that. And that's why I love the work that Erin does. There's always hope. There's always, something that can change if you're willing to go. We're in it for the long. We're in it till the end. So let's just do the work and get the help that we need. There, you can get there. Trust me.
So there's work involved. You're going to have to do the work, and being healthy, both of you as individuals, will make this work a lot better. Toward a stronger family. Well, in the last few seconds here, give us a few resources or tools or books or what you might suggest.
We just had a book come out over quarantine back in March called Reconnected, from roommates to soulmates. And because we continuously have heard couples saying we're committed, we're in this for the long haul, but we feel like married roommates. And bottom line, it's worth the pursuit of what can we do to deepen this connection and not live as roommates. And so you can get that at focusonthefamily.com. Focusonthefamily.com under the marriage tab has lots and lots and lots of great resources, as well as Hope Restored is a marriage intensive that Focus on the Family runs. It's in 3 locations across the nations. It's for couples who are in crisis, who are at that place of saying, we have divorce papers, we're done. It takes 2 willing hearts to go there, and we have seen miracles happen there. Just restoration of individual hearts as well as marriages.
Yeah, and take that free marriage assessments. That'll give you some insight into areas where you guys can keep growing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate all you do and all the resources you provide.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
All right, and thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week.